success.
Fantastic. Well, oh, I guess someone else is doing the recording now for us, so I'm not going to touch anything. It started. Good. So are there any questions as everyone's coming in? Let's use this time to get any questions that you might have for the work we have ahead of us, or just in relation to the readings. Any questions that anyone has or discussions?
Me know.
I have a question, Professor.
Absolutely.
Okay, so usually this class starts this time, and I work until an hour after it starts, usually. So,
Okay.
is it possible? Because I think everyone's working at this hour. Is it
Oh.
possible to postpone it an hour?
We can do a quiz. I can add a question onto this week's quiz to see if that would work for the majority. And we could absolutely do that. I had selected 10 o'clock last time when we were meeting for organizational behavior studies because of the time difference, but then there were some requests for earlier. So, what I promised to do is add to the quiz a question at the end to get an idea from everyone if they would prefer that or not. And we could totally do that if that's applicable to everyone or
Okay.
the majority.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. I'm making a note right now. Any other questions or discussions you'd like to have about the content? Very quiet this morning.
Actually, not all the people joined, so I guess this is the reason for quietness.
Yes. Yeah, there's about 7 of us in the meeting, so.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and so that brings me, I was going to share, so I'll do that now so that I don't take up too much of your time. When I'm excited to get into what you all have prepared for us today. I did want to make a note with regards to, and I'm going to pull it up right now, the solo project. I have not scored what was due for part 2 of that project, that identification of your interviews yet. I find that if I go in and do it right on the due date that I set for you all, I get a lot of emails or communications in WhatsApp about, oh, Professor, I didn't get it. Can I turn it into you here or now or whatnot? So I'm kind of waiting since the 12th. Yesterday was the due date. I'll go in and get those scores in the grade book for you all within these next couple of days. And then that will save those people who waited to the last minute, the struggle of spending time communicating with me in WhatsApp about it,
So
and me
it's still open?
correct that. I'm sorry?
It's still open?
It is still open, yes.
Because actually, I got the confirmation yesterday from our CEO in the company.
Oh, great.
He came back yesterday.
Okay. Okay,
So
fantastic.
I got 2, and the third one, well, she backed out, unfortunately. So I have 2, and I'm trying for the third one as
Trying
well.
to find your third. Okay. Okay. And you may
But at
find,
least can I share the 2 I have already?
yes, absolutely. When you fill in the identification of those people for the second assignment, do that. Yeah, turn in what you have.
Okay.
because it really is the timeline. If you've looked through the entire guide, each week is the timeline to help you be successful for the learning that's taking place along the way and how you'll represent that at the end. So yes, I would submit that. So on that note, where we're at now is looking at the design of the interview questions. And depending on what your focus area is, that you're going to be looking at leadership through the
Professor,
lens of. Yes.
actually, I didn't hear what you said at all. I had an issue with my headphones. It just shut down automatically, so I didn't hear anything.
Oh, you didn't hear what I responded? I said, yes, go ahead and submit what you have for assignment for the second portion of assignment.
Okay, I understand. Okay,
Okay.
okay, I
Okay.
got this.
Yes, and then I was speaking to the fact that that document that the reason why you all were asked to go through and read that full document of the Solo Project Weekly Guide was so that I knew where everyone's understanding was, where everybody's comfort level was, and also if there was any misunderstandings. So a couple of things that I wanted to clarify with everyone today, and good day to those who are now joining us. I wanted to go ahead and get started with some housekeeping issues or some logistics for the course, if you will. We are looking at the assignment number 2 Solo Project Weekly Guide and discussing that the second part of that, the identification of your interviewees, was supposed to be turned in at midnight last night, the 12th of February, and I will be going in and grading those within these next couple of days. And I wanted to just look at the third part, which is the project design of the interview questions, and give you some insights. If you are focusing on conflict resolution from a leadership perspective, or if you are focusing on intergenerational leadership, your questions, your interview questions are going to look very different. So if I am Rhodas and I am doing equality in leadership, I can have very similar questions for all 3 people or 4 people that I'm going to interview, or I can personalize a couple of those questions or some of those questions for the people that I'm interviewing. So when we look at the assignment for this week, which is due on the 19th of February, when you think about those questions that you're going to ask those leaders, what do you want to know about the topic that you selected through the lens of their leadership? So if I'm Rhodas and I'm looking at equality in leadership and I have 4 very different leaders, I might have a couple of my interview questions be the same and then have a few of them be different based off of the roles or responsibilities as I know it for that leader. What you will find when you're actually doing the interviews is that more questions are going to come up for you. And it's okay to make it conversational and ask those questions, because as much as we want to make sure we're meeting all the deadlines for these different parts of this assignment, the purpose of the assignment is for us to learn through the lens of leaders within a topic area of leadership that interests us. So don't lose sight of that, what we want to take away from this, because this is not only about meeting those deadlines to have a product at the end that you can be proud of. it's also about what is your learning that you want to take away for yourself as a developing leader in getting a perspective from some additional leaders about this topic that you're focusing on. Any questions? I have a couple other things to say about this assignment, but any other questions from anyone before I go into that? About the solo project weekly guide.
Yes, Professor. So
Yes.
it will be different questions for each interviewee.
That is entirely up to you. That is entirely up to you. You may decide to use the same questions for all 3 people or all 4 people, or you might use some of the same questions and bring in some different ones based off of their roles. It's entirely up to you and what you want to take away from the learning.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
it's very possible that you will turn in for part 3 of this assignment questions for the people that you're going to interview. And you'll use those questions when you do the interview, but you may very well have additional questions that you end up asking, and that's absolutely appropriate. That is not a problem at all. This is just to get you
Understood.
thinking about how you'll outline the conversation.
Okay. So it is basically guidance.
Yes.
Okay, but of course, when the discussion starts, it might deviate from what is planned.
Absolutely. Yes, it very well could.
Okay.
Yes. So the guidance is what we want to avoid is we don't want to take someone's time to meet with them, to interview them, and just say, so tell me about being a leader. Would you learn something? Yes. But would it give you a higher level of learning? No. So we're going to be prepared and we're going to have questions that can really help maybe our leaders think about their roles too. But more importantly, help us learn about leadership qualities and characteristics and experiences within these topics that we've selected. Okay. So let's go to what I've noticed. What I've noticed with just going over, the only thing that I have scored for this assignment so far is that part 1, which was your solo project weekly guide reflection. And what I had requested was that you read through the entire document and followed those instructions. And I appreciate the request for clarification that came through WhatsApp, because the purpose of doing that assignment is just to make sure that we know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And so these were some things that I noticed. First, we had, is it 9 of you that chose to not even do this assignment. And that's entirely up to you. If you feel like you don't need those points to be successful in the course, what's going to be a struggle potentially is I don't know where those 9 people who didn't do the assignment understand or don't understand the assignment. So with that said, what I do know about those of you who did complete the assignment is that we have some real creatives in the course. There's a lot of people that put a star next to designing the infographic, and a couple of you, that was an area where it was intimidating to you. That's where your circle was, and you said, like, I've never made an infographic, or I don't know how to do this. So that will be really great for you to lean on each other, because some people are very excited about that. And a couple of people were just like, I'm going to give it a go, but I've never done it. And that also helps me to make sure that I pull in some resources and some examples so that I can help you feel more comfortable about designing those infographics. That's one thing that I noticed from that assignment, from going through your assignments. Another thing that I noticed was a few of you put a star next to each of the topic areas that are available to select from. And though I agree, like all 5 of those topic areas are very important in leadership, I do want to know, like, which one is going to stand out for you? Which one are you going to focus your interviews on? So, for example, that's why it says under part 2, it says during this week, you are asked to conduct and record 4 interviews with different leaders on one of the following topics. And that means that, like coming up, you're going to be doing those interviews, but you need to choose one. You need to choose conflict resolution, or you need to choose emotional intelligence, or you need to choose intergenerational, or you need to choose development in children and adolescents, or equality in leadership. So it's hard sometimes to choose one, but you'll focus on one. Your colleagues in the course are going to focus on different ones, and we're going to get to experience all of them through different perspectives and lenses when we share our infographics in just a few weeks. So that was one thing that stood out as well. And then the last thing that I noticed from those of you who did complete the assignment was that there is a lot of discomfort with the idea of interviewing people and people being willing to be interviewed. And I just want to reiterate, and I did put this in the feedback as well when I put your scores in the grade book, is it can be uncomfortable, but it can still be a good thing. But if it is uncomfortable for you and or the person you're interviewing, it's okay to do written transcripts, just to take notes. And then when you finish the interview, you thank the person, you leave, and you write out more extensively the topic, what was discussed during the topic. That's totally appropriate for you to do to save yourself and someone else from being totally uncomfortable. Another thing that was mentioned in relation to that was that 4 was a lot. And 4 is actually not a lot when we're looking at trends in data. When we look at qualitative research, we always look for 6 data points in quantitative research, that is. So doing 4 gives you 4 different perspectives, 4 different experiences and lenses to learn about that leadership topic through. We did agree when we met the last class session we had that if you do 3, you can do 3, but they need to be like stellar. It can't be last minute, my third person canceled and now I only have 2, because you're not going to get the same level of learning from those 2 people as you would from the 3 or from the 4. So do your very best to do 4. And if you can't do 4, you can do 3. Do your very best to do the audio or video recording. If you can't, having it written out, writing out those transcripts is fine too. What I like with, I hate recording. I hate doing interviews that are recorded. But the value of it far outweighs my discomfort of it, because the value of it, when I go back as the person doing the research, body language says a lot. And you might not be picking up on body language from the people that you're interviewing while you're focusing on what question you're going to ask next and actively listening to what's being said. It just allows you another level of understanding. But again, in relation to that, if you need to do the written and not the audio or video, that's acceptable. If you need to do 3, and not 4, that's acceptable, but it needs to be spot on. It cannot be oh, now I'm in trouble because I only have 2 and I'm not going to have a solid representation of the learning. Any questions about those trends that I noticed within the solo project and where we're at so far with that?
I just want to say, Professor, that um, I understand the importance of recording.
Yes.
Okay, and I faced a case that a really nice person that I trust his opinion, and he is encouraging and welcoming. I told him that I'm studying, and I'm studying leadership and MBA and like this, and I need to do some assignment where I meet with a leader. He was very welcoming at the beginning until I said it has to be recorded. It will be either voice or video. Then he totally refused it. Like done. Like
Okay.
it's not like negotiating. No, he didn't even leave a room for that. He closed it.
Done. Okay. Okay. So so in the
It is difficult.
yes, yes. So yeah, and you'll run into that. One way to potentially approach that in the future would be when you ask them about and compliment their leaders, because it is a compliment to someone to be asked to be interviewed. So when you ask
Yes,
them about
indeed.
that, yes,
This is
yes, yes. So
this
when
is
you
yes. Please proceed.
oh yes, so when you ask them about that, you can say, and the assignment, and how do you feel about the assignment needing to be recorded by audio or video for the purpose of me collecting all of my interviews and learning from it? And if they're like, no, I'm not into that at all, you can say, okay, I'll just like jot down some notes to remember the key points that you say, because they do understand that they're being asked to support your learning for your course too. And so that might help in the future. I'm not saying that that's not the approach you took, but I'm just saying that that might be a good way to bring in that option so that they understand why it's being done and what it's being used for. With the way we are with the internet and things so available on social media, people will be hesitant because no one wants to see their face out on social media post without their permission. And that's not what we're doing here at all. So so that's that assignment. I'm excited about the work coming through. Some very incredible PowerPoint presentations, I should say, and recordings that you use talking through the screens. You did an amazing job. Many of you really demonstrated an incredible level of understanding, and I appreciate you taking the work seriously. I'm going to take us to the let me just share my screen real quick, and I promise I only have 5 more minutes so that our team can get started, but I'm going to share my screen. And I just want to take us into today's outline. This is in the Moodle. I didn't move the information into the Moodle for next week's session yet, just because I wanted to see if there's any changes that we need to do with this being our first week of having leaders from within the student groups. So our readings for this week focused on ethics and values in the workplace, and the objectives really brought in that moral development and having courage and values that guide and our tone and climate. And so the focus that we're going to experience that through is looking at leadership at scale and scope. And Noran and Ahmed and Rodas are bringing in two different outcomes today about the double helix and then also imperatives for transitioning to new leadership roles. And so I have here a link that is for our presentation team because I want to like hear from them about how it went and how it exemplified their learning by being the leaders of the learning today. Just questions that are specific to them for self-reflection. And then they will not be doing the quiz participation for this week. This quiz participation is for everyone else who is here in the session with us today, or who is not here and going to watch the recording within 48 hours and complete the quiz. And the reason why it's 48 hours, let me remind you all of how our learning connects. We have Noran, Ahmed, and Rodas taking their time to plan a wonderful experience for us to really grasp this learning. And so we want to give them feedback. And then I also need to know if you understood the learning in the way that we want it to be learned, so that I can integrate information at the beginning of next week's session, go over some key points or information. So that 48 hours is really important because today we have a great experience that we're going to have. And then we're going to offer feedback and insights on that and also share what your learning is. There are, it's 12 items on the quiz, but 2 of them are you're identifying information for me. And then the rest are areas that you'll be able to give that will allow me to give feedback from you all to the team. And then the remaining questions are about takeaways of learning that you have from today. And so you'll do that within the next 48 hours. I'll go in and read through those and score those, give our great presentation group, our leadership team today, their feedback from you all so that they can see all the wonderful things that they did or areas that they might consider to grow from. And it also allows you to then transition into the next content that will take place the following week. So that's why we do that kind of time frame, because it allows our presentation team to get insights from you all and from me very quickly so that they can celebrate the hard work that they did and reflect on it themselves. And then it allows you to make those connections from the learning into the learning that's taking place for the next week. So there's very much a spiral going on here. And it is 9:30. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and let my wonderful team that was willing to go first here, Noran and Rodas and Ahmed, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, we added some links here in the chat box that that might make easy access for the colleagues here to access what we are talking about during the presentation. They are the link for the materials, the feedback form. It is a feedback form for the team and the feedback form for the professor. She has just explained now, both of them to be completed within 48 hours. I will share my screen, so we will be able to start. Okay. Okay. First part here, I would love to express how lucky I am to find a quote for Albert Einstein on each topic I presented since I started working 5 years ago. And we owe him the favor of the unbreakable relativity, all of us, of course. Albert said that relativity applies to physics, but not physics. And this is the part which we are going to discuss today, that ethics is not relative. It is an absolute and abstract concept. For the session timeline, it is divided into the first part, which is Professor Annie started with, and chapter 6 will be discussed by me in 30 to 40 minutes. Chapter 7 with Ahmed in same interval of time. And Rodis will do a recapping for both chapter in 30 to 40 minutes too. And there is the post-session feedback. It will only take 10 minutes. But it is very important because actually it would reflect on our colleagues in the next sessions to have some lessons learned from our presentation, of course. This is the drive link. Let me show you something here. This is the drive folder for today's session. The SharePoint is easily accessed. And I have added, if Professor Annie don't mind, of course, at the first section here in the drive, I had added the link for materials too for future reference. You will find here the parts divided and consolidated, both options for easy reviewing before a quiz. And there is a reference list here, which contain all the links we used during preparation of material. And the main goal was to help our colleagues in the upcoming sessions if something from them is useful for them to use, of course. Okay. The second here link here is the feedback form, as we discussed. So your feedback really matters, guys. And please feel free to do the evaluation, whatever you see, and write any comments you would like. So based on this, we will collect the feedback within 48 hours after the 48 hours, and we shall upload to this section here, the session feedback, all the results and statistics. So you will be easily reviewing that. Okay. A note before we start that each part we worked on was based and paraphrased according to our understanding and the way we find it simple for participants and presenters to do the work. So you might find some keywords which is very matching and some other which is rephrased for understanding. Okay, and now we can start part 3 directly. Here, part 3, it's discussing related to ethics. And the main goal of this part is to have a future ethical leaders. So this part is taking us step by step from the basics of ethics here till classifications and which type of leaders we are. And then the applications of values and transferring them to some definitions which we can use in our workplace as rules, policies, work integrity. So we will be combining the work along the session to find final results about implementing ethics in our workplace. Starting with chapter 6. What is ethics and leadership ethics? Actually, we can define ethics in a very simple equation here. Let me do the pointer. Yes. Ethics is a combined equation of good intent and moral means which result in unethical consequences. All have to be in the right way. And by the way, the consequences being ethical doesn't mean it is a good or bad news. Maybe it is an ethical consequences, but a very bad news. But you have to do the right thing, whatever it is, a good or bad. And on the other side, the unethical is the same combination when you did it or when you do it in a bad or a wrong behavior. For the part of the ethical leadership or ethics of leader, actually, ethical leader is a servant leader who worship the values and defend his team, always respecting the workplace policies and his personal ethical standards. That usually results in followers maintaining high standard of ethical conduct in workplace, of course. And by law of nature or as per human instinct, that we follow the behavior of our superior people. It's like when you mimic your parents when they do the right or the wrong stuff. The ethics is not easy subject actually. It is very complex, and having a daily evaluation for yourself or the others in being right or wrong differ every day. This is not due to relativity of ethics, but it is due to the variation of the situation we experience on daily basis. And this makes the evaluation harder and harder. For example, if we get to the dynamite invention, it is used in good stuff when we, for example, use in mining, in making tunnels, but it is with a bad use when we use in wars or destroying stuff. Same for nuclear power, for example. It is now a hassle nowadays. Is it good or bad? It is a clean, renewable energy, but versus a very dangerous wastes. And sometimes when there's technical problems in the solutions, it causes a global crisis, which affect everyone. So it is an ethical dilemmas that we think about on daily basis. The roots of ethics, they are divided in two parts, actually, which are based on religion or based on scientific or secular ethics. And both ways or tracks usually depend on the justification we do. So we can take an example as embezzlement. And if we don't understand embezzlement, it is when you steal big amount of money behind the back of the company owner or anybody you work for and do some illegal stuff with this money. So it can be justified both scientific based or religion based. When we go to scientific based, we will see that it is unethical. It will cause money loss for the company and the owner of the company, of course. And it shall do some bankrupting for this person and cause for him financial damages and problems. On the other side, when we come to religious solution or religious side, we will find that most of the religions, it is forbidden to do so. So it depends on the justification. So you can have the track or the root of the ethics. Right. Ethics in human being and animals. Actually, ethics is unique for humankind because it is a combination of using your mind and your emotion and knowledge, experience. When you combine all those together, you result in an ethical decision or you conclude an ethical decision. But for me, as Nuran, it is a personal opinion. I believe a big part of ethics depend on emotions and how bad or good you feel depending on what you do or the ethical decision or unethical decision you do. So since animals have this instinct too through emotion, they have the prime ethical elements. I don't know if anyone see this movie. So guys, did you see this movie before or know the history or the story of Hachi? And yes, his name is Hachi, not Hashiko or any other pronunciation, because it is more to be a Japanese name.
Yes, I
Anyone
saw
know?
this. Yes, yes, I saw
Yes,
this
Ahmed.
movie.
Say,
No, I'm saying that I saw this movie. I know the
Yes,
story
I know.
about it.
Yeah.
we cannot hear you guys. Ahmed Chan, you unmuted
Yeah.
your
You
mics.
cannot hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. Well, we know it where it's
I
famous
cannot hear you
story.
guys.
Yeah.
Hear you guys.
Can
You
you
can
hear me
write
now?
if you have a problem in
Hello?
headphones or something.
I can hear everybody.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Noran,
That? Yes.
Noran, can you hear me?
Yes,
Do
now
you
I
hear
can
me?
hear
Ah,
you.
okay.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
It's nice movie, sad but nice.
Yes. Uh, Chan, you were saying something? Is that?
No, no, it's
Yes.
okay. It's
Yes.
okay. I can
Yes,
hear.
yes,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
said that I saw this movie. It's very nice. Yes.
Yes, great. Actually, the story of the movie was this is a famous story in Japan. It was a Japanese story, and it is a dog who was in love with his owner. He used to wait for him at the train station to pick him up after work at 5 p.m. every day. And one day, suddenly, the man died. That was when his owner died. He used to wait for him at 5 p.m. every day for 9 years till the dog died. So I think this is what we can call ethics, not other things. So yes, it is very emotional and sad story, but I believe animals have ethics too, even partially. For the moral development starts usually when we are babies or when we are children. When our parents say this is for this yes, for this no, they punish for the bad stuff and they reward us for the good stuff. Then we go to other level when we are teenagers around 12 to 16, when our parents start advising us to do some moral stuff because we have to do so. And then by the end, when we reach the adulthood, we reach the heteronomy. Sorry to pronounce in wrong way. Uh, this is when you deal with the rules you have learned it as a scared law, which is personally unbreakable even if others do. So you learn it in stages. You don't get the full ethical development in one step. It is it have to be in steps as our aging. Some stuff play a big part in shaping our ethics. As we said in the previous slide, it is mainly our parents and what we learn from them, but we have other shapers for our character being ethical or no. We have associations here. Associations is our surroundings, our friends, our parents, the superheroes, our role models. So we have characters that we usually mimic when we like their behavior on daily basis. Also, books play a big role in this shaping. When you read books that include some political beliefs or even about fictional stuff, you adapt those beliefs to be your own beliefs by the time. And finally, the self concept. The self concept is how you like to be on yourself, or how you would love to see yourself in the future, or what you feel on a daily basis. It is related more to conscious. For the levels of morality, I would rather to prefer the nomination of morality map or matrix. This is not an official name. It is a name we use here to make it simple to feel the concept. It is like a classification of metrics for leaders. As ethical leader, you have to lie in one of those slots in this matrix. So the matrix is divided via two criteria here: the stage of your morality and how much you are interested in ethics. So if you are pre-conventional, so the ethics is not a big concern for you or interest. Conventional, you are a moderate person, which is attached to ethics, but it depends on situation. And the post-conventional, when the ethics and morality is your ultimate goal, and you're very attached to it, whatever the situation is. And when you go through the stages here, through the cubicles in this matrix, when you reach the 36, this is the virtue level, utopia level, when you reach the ultimate morality. Some people actually minors, but some people reach this part, like, for example, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Galileo. They were fighters for what they believed in. Gandhi fought for human rights. Nelson Mandela fought for freedom. Even Galileo died changing the universe concept in human minds. So they reached the 36 level, actually. Legal departments or legal facilities overall, they have a main goal to convert the ethics we learned and we believed on in a way we understand, like laws or policies or rules, so we can be punished when we break or awarded when we follow. But there is a very big note here that we have to highlight on that. Let me choose the pen here. That not what is all ethical, it have to be legal and vice versa. So there is some legal stuff which are unethical, and there is some illegal stuff which we found ethical. But mostly not most of the legal stuff are ethical stuff. For example, there is a crime when you kill someone when you don't mean that. So by law, you might be guilty, but you are free to go because this was not your means or your intention to do so. It is a wrong killing. But on ethical base, that was unethical, and you shouldn't have done that even in a wrong way. You should have been more careful to not do that. So that result in that morals can be related more to what we believed in and transferred through the generation, and they preserve it. Till this point, guys, anyone have any question in any part of the presentation? any point was unclear, needs more clarification?
Very clear, Noran. Can I just give
Very
you one
clear.
example of that last? Being legal doesn't always mean ethical.
Yes.
Okay, so we in the state of Florida in the United States right now have a governor who does not honor diversity and inclusion. And he has made a state law for our educators to at K-12, all of the classroom library books were removed until they could go through and take out any books that represented anyone outside of a traditional representation of what the governor sees to be. So, for example, if it was a book about a child who had two parents who were a mom, were females instead of a mom and a dad, or if it was a book about our history and the Caucasian Americans' responsibility in some of the slave trafficking, for example, it would need to be removed. And in our higher education system now, those diversity and inclusion departments and directors are being removed from the public universities, and full board members are being removed from the universities. So that would be an excellent example of where, to meet their legal requirements for the public education in that particular state in the US, doesn't mean that it's ethical in relation to humanity and the diverse people and different abilities of people that are available and live within that state. So that's like an example that's been a very like hot topic right now in the US. And I think it helps us to see like what do you mean there can be things that don't align between law and ethics, because people think that the law is there to protect us, but there are occasions where it doesn't mean that it's ethical when it is the law. So thank you for bringing that up. Very thorough representation of the learnings.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have the next part that is more practical, which is discussing a business ethical dilemmas. I removed that in a separate presentation actually, because the goal of it was the discussion on class, but it is not, of course, obligatory or within the course materials, but we shall all benefit from it. And actually, they were based on this link. This link is very, very helpful. It contains 7 ethical dilemmas, and those dilemmas were based on real business decision-making dilemmas. So they were 7 COOs or product managers or people running companies, and they were put in a situation that it have 2 decisions. One is ethical and another is no, and all were hard to decide. So you can go through freely to discuss the 7 or to see the 7. But now we have selected only 2 dilemmas to discuss together here. And we think if we were in their shoes, how will we decide? So it is more to be interactive with you guys. And both dilemmas here, you will find the personal profiles for those people and the website for the company they were running at this time when they were narrating the stories. Okay, I know that reading might take some time from you guys, so we can simplify. I can explain the first dilemma, and then we can think together if we were in the person's shoes, what were our decision will be. and then we will see what they decided and what is the personal experience or the lessons learned from this point. The first one was for Catherine Minshew. She is till now the CEO and co-founder for the Muse. The Muse is a website which is used for CV applications and hiring and recruiting stuff. When she were starting the business, she hired a company to make the website. There was a partnership and agreement. So she was running a team, and she hired the company with its team to make the website. She said that during the running of the business, she found that they were dealing with her team in a very bad way and very poor way. And this is not what she hoped for the business. And she made to highlight that the condition was very bad because on the other side they were dealing with her in a very good way, and she was very very keen to start the business, to start collecting revenue, because she invested lots of money and she paid this company lots of money to do for her the job. So if we were in Menshow's shoes, what our decision will be, guys. So I would love to hear from you, your decision, if you were the CEO of this website or company. And
I will go first.
yes, Ahmed, go first.
Okay. Respect does not come in parts. Okay. Respect, like for me, the point here is respecting. Okay, I don't respect the top management because they're top management and they are in control, and at the same time I show bad manners to the small stuff. Okay, who I'm not going to like benefit from them. So eventually, no, I am with Catherine in her decision to quit the work with the other company. Okay.
You
It's
still
it's not
don't know
ethical.
Catherine's decision, so we will know what she
Okay, I don't.
decided. But
Okay,
yeah,
but
but I
if
think your
she
decision, Ahmed, is
decided
to.
to quit with them, then I support her.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. Anybody else? What do you think, guys? Okay. I know most of you might be working right now. So let's see what she decided actually. Catherine's decision was to, um, like Ahmed said, she gave them a warning, by the way, at the first, that they are dealing with the team in a bad way. And when she found that this is not effective, she have ruined the partnership, and she said that we will not deal anymore. And they took the money of their work and they refunded her the back, so she lost a big amount of money, and she only received the rest of the money of the job. And she was thinking if her team would appreciate what she have done for them. And by the way, her website now is very successful and she has lots of followers, and her business is very successful. So this means, I think, that her team appreciated what she have done for them. And the lesson she said, the coach, she said after that I think backing your team in situations like that is really important, because it is not always easy, especially when you are in early stages. So this is the lessons learned that Catherine expressed. The second dilemma was for Anthony Soho. Anthony actually now, by the way, is not the CEO for Dot and Bow. He is a global board member in Harvard. But when he narrated the story, he was the founder for Dot and Bow, and he was explaining that happened to him when he was a product manager in Apple. He was a product manager for Apple PowerBook, and when they were testing the product, a very, very minor sample were defected, and he was confused what the decision he should make. Should he launch the product as the company says and his team says, or he have to stop the launching? And his team preferred that launching would be the option because $1 million were invested on the project, and that should happen without any delays. So what will you do, guys, if you were in Anthony's shoes?
I think it's should be postponed the launching of these items, because I think it's easy to be honest and to say to everybody that we are not ready right now because our product is not satisfied with all requirements we want it. It's not like we want it to be, so it's better to postpone than to lose reputation and to sacrifice the customer's attitude. So it's my opinion.
Thank you, Lizette. Thank you. Anybody else would like to share his opinion?
Yes, I agree also. The long term is more important than the short term.
Yes, yes. That was his opinion, but he was, of
So
course,
exactly.
yes. Continue, Ahmed. Only a delay in sound.
So he would, for me, I would accept a small loss, dollars, okay, on the assumptions of having the trust of other millions of customers, when they know that even it has two edges. Okay, from a side that we are saying that we found some fault in our equipment, but from another side we care much that we didn't launch it, and or we don't launch a product until we are 100% sure it is matching and correct. So it
Right.
shakes at the beginning, it shakes the trust, but at the end it is stabilizing it.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And that was Anthony's decision, what you have said, guys, that he delayed the launch of the product, although it ended up that there was a very long delay, but still he was very, very keen that the customer perspective will be the same, and that the customer will not feel a change in the product or any issues, even in a very small sample from the whole batch. And the lesson he expressed on his tongue that he's trust your gut to do the right thing for the customers. When there is a difficult decision to make it based on what create long-term value and instead of gaining the short-term win. That lesson has remained with me throughout my career. So what you said, Ahmed, was exactly the lesson learned for this. Thanks for Lidat and Ahmed for their opinion. Trying to find my presentation. Now we will return back on track. We have now concluded the basics of ethics and how it goes and its development and the levels of morality, and ending up with the legal department as our compass or alert that keep us on track. The next part will be implementing those values and transferring them to business terms and ethical business terms that we can deal with it on our workplace on daily basis with Ahmed. Ahmed, you will start?
Yes, thank you, Nuran. Okay, so now we will talk about the role of value and ethics at works. Next, please. So we will start our chapter with one quote from Simon Singh. He said that when people are financially invested, they want a return. But when people are emotionally invested, they want to contribute. Next. So we will talk here about the values. Firstly, we need to define it. It is the estimated worth of something. For many organizations, value are just a social glue. So in order to avoid that value statement must hypocrisy, it must enter into daily practices of the organization and must reflect enduring commitment. And for the leaders, they also must examine their own value system and put good intention into solid action that others can be witnesses and saw it. Next. So we need to know when the organization need to clarify its values. We have here some red flags. That mean when we saw this item, we have something wrong and we have to clarify it. First of it, the members lacking clear understanding about how they should behave, as they have attempted to meet organizational goals. Secondly, we have a different individuals and groups that have fundamentally different value system. And the top leader sending a mixed message about what is important for the sake of the organization. And other member complaining about the organization to neighbors and friends and their family. And the last red flag we have here is it is like the person having ear but not hearing. Here the organization having its values but not practicing them. Next. Next slide, please. So, what is the importance of value? We have to survive and achieve success. The organizational must have a sound set of values. On the other hand, the leader also must adhere to these values. To meet the challenges, organization must be prepared to change everything about itself and to be open to change. But always they have to remain true about their core values. And as Thomas Watson said, business and its belief is the idea that helped and made it build IBM. So talking about the IBM and Walmart, they have the same core values, which can be summarized as the following. The first one is respecting the individuals to the maximum. The next value is giving the best customer service as possible. And the final one is performing every job with the best excellence they have. So next, please. Here we will talk about the value and its importance of courage. There are certain values that often mentioned in our workplace. The first one is honesty. We have to be honest in all of dealing, as honesty is the foundation for all values. And we have to respect all the other people. by showing consideration for the beliefs and their needs. And we have to make the help for the others and guided by the principle of doing as you would have them do for you. And the excellence in all work performance shall be portrayed. And the last point is the integrity. We have to have the courage to act and live by the one conviction. Next. When people define the character and the courage of the character, we have 3 points. We have 3 layers of the character. The first one is what they say is important. The second layer is what they do is most important. And the last layer and the most important one is what they sacrifice for. The psychologist Rollo May explains the importance of the courage as follows. He said that courage is the foundation that underline and give reality to all other virtue and value. Without courage, love pale into dependency and fidelity become conformism. Next, please. Continue to the value and the importance of courage. We have many leadership situations here, characterized by 3 points: ambiguity and uncertainty and even danger. The leader must be able to act in spite of these factors, as many decisions will require to overcome fear and doing what must be done. And as the U.S. Army General Norman Schwarzkopf explains, you usually know the right thing to do, but the hard part is doing it. Next. So we have here traditional definition of the road. The road and the right have been defined in terms of 6 points. We will go over it through the next slide, which we can summarize here by power, personal integrity, natural simplicity, and the will of God, pleasure, and pragmatics. So the next started with the first one, the power. Here we can show or see the Nicola Machiavelli, which is an Italian diplomat and political writer. He said that if the life is a struggle for survival and human beings are selfish, then the best individuals are those who adapt to this market and become master of manipulative relation. The most famous word of him that we all know, the end justify means and thought that might makes right. The next, please. The second point of the traditional definition of good is personal integrity. And here we see the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He said that the human resolutions born of independent judgment. And he encouraged the individual to be independent and strong in conviction, even in the face of group pressure and the government authority. Also, he believes that the best human beings are those who exhibit more virtue and courage and other ideas, regardless of the personal loss or gain. The second, next, please. Nuran.
I have get the next, but it seems there's
Yes.
a delay.
Yes,
There's
natural.
a delay in present.
Okay. The next point is the natural simplicity. We have here the Frenchman Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He also believes that the nature in essence is a God, but because humanity is part of nature, human beings too are naturally good. help the corruption come from with the civilization, and that the children should be raised in a state of the simplicity. Next, please. Here we have the Radwell. All the religions taught us to love and humanity, and to show clearly in the teaching of Islam and Christian, for example. In Islam, for example, we have prayer for 5 times daily, and we also have 3-day fast of Ramadan, and these beliefs also exist in the Christian, as there are life and teaching of Jesus and the 3 commandment. All this belief in love are essential ideal of millions of people and guided all of people. Next. Last point here is the pleasure. We shall experience pleasure and avoid pain as much as we can, as it is the main goal purpose. Pleasure is the moment shouldn't be postponed for an uncertain future pleasure. So you don't have to wait and hesitate whenever it comes, and we have to catch all moments of happiness. Next, please. And the final is the pragmatism. It is a philosophical belief that maintain what is true. You must be based on an evidence, and its belief should be evaluated in terms of the role they play. They play in solving life's practical problem. The term practical applies to all aspects of life, including social, political, economic, and religious. We can summarize it in this saying, the road is that which works. Next. And we have here the honesty as a leadership value. The effective leadership should hold his truth as a central value and foundation for all other value. This message, as old as Prophet Muhammad said, honesty is the best policy. Also, as mentioned in Bible, know the truth and it will set you free. And finally, by Shakespeare, who advises this above all, to thin oneself to be true. So, being an honest means more than not deceiving. It also means that making a promise you can't keep, not spreading facts and data, not hiding behind half-truths. Next, please. We have here a false wind values. False wind values, it is a concept in ethics that can be used to assess the strength of one's value. It's especially important for people in leadership position. We have to think about it here as a sport of baseball, in which you have to follow swing is needed to hit the home run. An arrested swing will result in less success. So, in the same, for the question of right and wrong, and good and bad, it's an ethical dilemma. Next. Continue to the false wind values. It construct from 5 points. The first one is to know one's value. The second point is to cherish one's value. The next one is to declare one's value. The next is to act on one's value. And the last point is to act habitually on one's value. Next. The leadership and the value. So, what is important for the organization to have the value, and what is the role for the leader in establishing and enforcing value? Firstly, people need the value of just a society and oversight of wise leader to govern their action. Otherwise, they may engage in selfish and destructive behavior. So, we need to keep in mind that culture shapes the leader value, which influence his or her action. Next, please. So, how is the leader behavior influence the employee and conduct the organizational reputation? People may forgive the leader who failed to manage them, or have insufficient of the use of time, or fail to achieve the smooth human relation. But they will never forgive him for the immoral and non-principled, such as a person who lack a moral authority and he isn't trusted or respected. The studies showed that people who excel in leadership have a sense of purpose, a deep commitment, and feeling that they do contribute to a worthwhile case. Their actions are deeply rooted in values. Next. So, how is the leader behavior influence employer conduct and organizational reputation? Next slide, please. No, yes, saints. The leader's value determine the rightness and wrongness of what they do. Also, the leader's action sets the standards for the other's behavior and performance on the job. Leaders who are honest, unselfish, and dedicated help the people to succeed. Finally, and as Benjamin Franklin explained, it takes many good deeds to build a good reputation, but only one bad to lose it. In addition, the Warren Buffett ordered to his senior manager to instantaneously report any legal violation or moral failure by employee. Buffett understood that basic values are crucial for building trust, which is the bedrock for organizational survival and growth. Next. Here we have a sixth value of caring leaders. Honesty, which means to know oneself and being honest in all dealing with others. Consideration, which is the golden rule here, is to treat the other as you would like to be treated. Responsibility, taking the attitude that life is what you make and choose to make a difference. Persistence, being determined if at the first you didn't succeed, you have to try and try again. Excellence, living by the slogan that anything worth doing is worth doing well. And finally, commitment, viewing the great essential of life as someone to love and something to portray. Next. So, how is the leader behavior influences us? The caring leader focuses in the welfare of 4 items. First, the customer, and he cares about by anticipating their needs and providing a state of art for the product. The next one is the employee, and he cares by providing a healthy work environment, and he shall treating him with a fairness and helping them to achieve their professional potential. The shareholder, he treated them by maintaining a stronger growth rate and return on investment. And finally, the community, which shall demonstrate the highest standard of ethical behavior and contributing to the well-being of society. Next. The organizational ethics here, we have some rules at the workplace that should be occurred. The first one is to reflect the ethical idea of ownership. It shall be reviewed also periodically, and to be fewer in number, and to be stated clearly with no ambiguities, and to be communicated to all employees, and to be applied equally on all of the employee. Next. The code of ethics guideline. The code of ethics shall include guideline in each of these areas. The first one, government relations, and how does the organization pay the taxes and obey national and international law. The employee relations, how does the organization deal with the employee welfare. Community and environment relations, what are the effects of the organization on social and physical environment. Business relation, how does the organization deal with the supplier and the competitor. And finally, the consumer relation, how does the organization price and advertise its product and services. Next, please. We have here a key characteristic of ethical organization. The first one is they are try to satisfy all their customer, employee, owner, or dealer. They subscribe to the utilization ideal, to the greatest good for the greatest number. The next one is the dedicated to high import purposes. Profit is viewed as an essential mean to a higher end human services and to higher the quality of life. They have to be committed to learning, investing enormous resources, and responsive to change. They view employee growth and development as a critical foundation of business success. And finally, they try to be the best at whatever they do. Their performance standards shall be raised continually. Next. Ethics at work. One of the most influential guidelines for the ethics at work come from Rotary International. We have many generations of leaders from all areas of the world have been taught to test their action against the following four basic questions. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build a goodwill and better relationship? Would it be beneficial to all the concerned? Next. Here is a motive that link leaders and ethics at work. We have to believe that high ethical standard and the business success are positively related. Also, we have to believe that ethical commitment builds customer trust, and the belief that reputation for integrity attract and keep the best employee. And finally, want the company to be a role model for a society. Next. What is the cost of ethical misconduct? We have here a social and economic cost. One of them, loss of customer and sales. Also, we may increase the turnover and loss of good employee. We have a cynical employee. We may lose the ownership equity. And we may suffer from high operating costs. And finally, we may have additional legal expenses. Next. Here we have ethical climate of organization, which can be summarized to the 3 points. The ethical climate refers to the moral standards that have been consistently communicated and embraced, especially by leaders in both word and conduct. In dealing with moral dilemma regarding people, product, and profit, organizational typically reflect one of the 3 ethical climate. The first one is the profit maximizing. The second one is the trusteeship. And the final one is quality of life management. Each climate provides a different level of organizational support for ethical decision making. Next. So following to the ethical climate, as we mentioned the previous slide, it's an exercise that presents a description of each climate on a 14 ethical dimension. Once you complete this exercise, you will see how different ethical climate influence more judgments and result in different experience for employee and customer. So as you read the description, you have to ask yourself the following 3 questions. What type of organization do you respect? And what type of organization do you have? And finally, what can you do to influence the ethics of your organization? Next, please. And it shall be results in the 3 core value as shown here. The profit maximization, when it's reflected, it's a conventional morality level 1. You have here to focus on self-gain and punishment avoidance. The second level is the trusteeship, which reflects conventional morality level 2. Here, conform to the expectation of others and to satisfy higher authority. And the best level you may reach is the quality of life management. It's level 3. And here to do what is the right over self-interest and influence for others. Here the ethical conduct based on the highest moral principle. We all here aim to be the quality of the life management, which is level 3. That's the end of the chapter. Thanks.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you.
Radis, are you ready?
Yes, yes. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Great. So if anyone has any questions about what Ahmed presented. Okay, if there's no questions, we can proceed. Okay, great. So I'm going to be doing the summary of the 2 chapters. Since both of them did a thorough explanation of those chapters, I'm just going to do reviews of the major points that were stated, and we're going to have some videos that will explain more of the topics that we have. So when we see the chapter 6, we have seen different perspectives of leadership ethics, what ethics itself means. We have mentioned moral dilemma and how to address them. We have seen the 2 roots of ethics, which are secular ethics and religious ethics. We related ethics with humankind and animals. We saw the 3 most important influences on character information, which are association, books, and other medias, and self-concept. We saw levels of morality and how each level has 2 stages in it. Levels of morality by Lawrence Kohlberg. So Noran, can you go to the last slide, please? Not the second one, the last slide.
Radis, I lost your voice.
The next
Which
one?
one?
The next. No.
Chapter 7, right?
Yes, the last
This
one. No,
The last one?
The last one. The last.
Chapter 6 and 7.
Yes. No. The last one. The one with the orange in it. The last one. Nora, think
This one?
the one next to this one. The one next to it.
I've already bring it. Yes, this one. The one in orange, totally. Brothers, I lost you.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now better. This one, the one in levels of morality that was stated
Hello?
by Lawrence. Yes, I can hear you clearly. Brothers?
If you're seeing my text,
Your voice is just interrupted. I
hello?
think it is internet.
Noran,
Yes,
can
now
you
it is back.
Can you test it, Rudis?
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, now it's better. Can you hear us?
Noran?
Yes, now we can hear you. Yes, I'm in the last slide.
This is the summary of the chapter 6 and 7, if I'm correct. So I want you to go to the one
I'm in
next
the
to it.
orange one. Yes, the levels of morality. I'm in it
Yes,
already.
yes. Click on the link. Click on the link.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm having some internet connection problems.
This video, right? The first one.
Yes,
The
yes.
last
Click
one.
on the link.
The last one. Yes. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Guys, please tell me if you can hear the video well. If it is not, I will share again with including the voice. Okay?
Okay. Yeah,
Can
we
hear?
can't hear it.
No.
No sound.
Okay. Okay. Let's share again. Share. Include computer sound. Share. Now?
The stages themselves are structured in 3 levels: pre-conventional,
You can hear?
conventional, and post-conventional. To understand this better, imagine a conflict at school.
Do you hear the voice clear?
Yes. Clear.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, I was confirming. Yes.
Lawrence Kohlberg's theory claims that our development of moral reasoning happens in 6 stages. The stages themselves are structured in 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. To understand this better, imagine a conflict at school. There is a fight in the schoolyard. 2 ninth graders are beating up Tom. Those who watch the fight are at different stages of moral development. Let's see what they do and how they justify their behavior. At stage 1, we make moral judgments based on obedience and punishment. Finn's sense of good or bad is directly linked to whether he gets punished or not. Finn sees what is happening to his friend and wants to help. But he doesn't because he is afraid the teacher may punish him if he gets caught fighting. He asks himself, how can I avoid punishment? At stage 2, we are motivated by self-interest. Mary decides to intervene and help Tom. She knows that she might get punished, but she also knows that she could become a victim herself someday. If she helps Tom now, he might help her in the future. She is asking herself, what's in it for me? At stage 3, interpersonal accord and conformity guide our moral judgment. Betty sees the fight and wants to intervene, but when she realizes that all the others are just watching, she decides not to get involved. She wants others to see that she is a good girl who is conforming with the ethics of the community. She asks herself, what do others think of me? At stage 4, we value authority and want to maintain social order. When the teacher sees the group fighting, he immediately steps in and shouts, "Stop! Fighting at school is forbidden." He feels that, above all, it is important to follow the rules, otherwise chaos breaks out. He feels it is his duty to uphold the rules that sustain a functioning society. He asks himself, how can I maintain law and order? At stage 5, we understand rules as a social contract, as opposed to a strict order. Jessie, who watches from afar, is not sure how she feels about this. To her, rules make sense only if they serve the right purpose. Obviously, the school rules prohibit fighting, but maybe Tom deserves to finally learn his lesson. Just yesterday, he punched a young girl from grade 1. She asks herself, does a rule truly serve all members of the community? At stage 6, we are guided by universal ethical principles. All those involved now have to face the headmaster. He first explains the school rules and why they exist. He then clarifies that rules are valid only if they are grounded in justice. The commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust rules. The headmaster's highest moral principle is compassion. He believes that all people should learn to understand each other's viewpoints, and that they don't feel alone with their feelings. He asks, what are the abstract ethical principles that serve my understandings of justice? At the pre-conventional level, Finn is driven by fear and Mary by self-interest. Both judge what is right or wrong by the direct consequences they expect for themselves and not by social norms. This form of reasoning is common among children. At the conventional level, Betty responds to peer pressure, and the teacher follows the rules. Their morality is centered around what society regards as right. At this level, the fairness of rules is seldom questioned. It is common to think like this during adolescence and adulthood. At the post-conventional level, Jessie knows that things are complicated because individuals may disobey rules inconsistent with their own morality. The headmaster follows a universal ethical idea, at complete disconnect with what society thinks or the rules say. To him, everything is solved through compassion. The right behavior, in his opinion, is therefore never a means to an end, but always an end in itself. Not every person reaches this level. The American psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg based his work on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. In order to confirm his theory of stages of moral development, Kohlberg interviewed boys between the ages of 10 and 16. He analyzed how they would justify their decision when confronted with different hypothetical moral dilemmas. We will now present to you the most famous moral dilemma Kohlberg presented to his students. Let's see what you would do. The Heinz Dilemma. A woman was on her deathbed. There was only one drug that the doctors thought might save her. The druggist that made that particular medicine sold it for 10 times the price of the production costs. The sick woman's husband, Heinz, was poor and could not afford to buy the drug, not even with the financial help of his friends. Heinz then asked the pharmacist to sell it to him for half the price, but he refused. To save the life of his wife, Heinz broke into the man's laboratory and stole the medicine. Now tell us, should Heinz have stolen the drug? Would it change anything if Heinz didn't love his wife? What if the person dying was not his wife, but a stranger? Should the police arrest the druggist for murder if the wife had died? Please write your answers and their justifications in the comments below.
You can hear me now, right? Yeah, I've been having connection
Yes.
issues. I hope you learned a lot from the video. It explains it very good. And so what I wanted to add up to this is only 5 to 10% of adults operate consistently at the stage 6, which is the level 3. And I wanted to ask, have you asked yourselves at what level of moral reasoning do you operate? Are you consistent at the highest stage, which is the stage 6, or are you usually just, if anyone has opinions on that?
Rhoda, if no one has opinions on that, I just wanted to tie in a couple of pieces if I can very quickly. So that video was a great connection, especially your question about the 5 to 10% at stage 6 and our post conventional levels. We bring that work from Kohlberg full circle back to what was shared from Noran about the leadership and values and influencing employees' conduct. And that was from Ahmed. Leadership and values and influencing employees' conduct and organizational reputations. And that full swing concept of assessing our strengths and values. And then Norian had those elements of influence of character formation and morality development. And that's why I brought in to the outcomes for today that concept of the double helix of leadership, because I think that what you all have done is laid a beautiful foundation of the ethics and morals, the content of those chapters 6 and 7. And what the double helix does is it gives us the application of what that plays out like for us as a leader in our development. And the double helix is that intertwining of co-evolutionary process for executing our organizational leadership, responsibilities and requirements, while at the same time developing and enhancing capabilities to perform. And of course, because we're the leaders, we're doing this very publicly. We're doing this at the same time in front of those that we're leading. And so within the double helix, the work of leadership and journey for personal development has 5 different elements for us to work these components of ethics and morality within. And that's looking at how we remove expectations of expertise so that we allow ourselves to not have a bias of how we're developing others and how they proceed to lead, making delegating easier. 68% of US employees in a recent research publication said that morality is declining. So it's about how are we discouraging micromanaging, because when we micromanage, the morality of those that we're leading declines by 68%. And then when we look at fostering team collaborations as a leadership action, in the US, again, 50% say that their job relies on collaboration and they need a leader that can mentor and model that for them in effective ways. And then last but not least, eliminating fear from mistakes and being vulnerable while still upholding our authority and respect as a leader. So those elements that you all brought in together, especially that video, that's why I wanted to share this now. I was trying to hold off, but especially that video that you just shared, Rhodas, with Kohlberg's theory, really brings all of those pieces together in relationship to how are we developing ourselves as a leader in order to meet those responsibilities and requirements while still enhancing our capabilities ourselves and being ethical and moral in doing so. So thank you for sharing that. I will be quiet now. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Yes, you're correct. You're right. It brings everything together, that video. And now, when we proceed, there's on the chapter 6, there's obedience. We have seen the Milgram experiments, a replication of the Milgram theory. It has found 75% of both men and women follow morally offensive orders of strangers who they believe occupy a position of authority. So they're more drawn, or they're more obedient to the offensive ones, which are perceived to be, or perceived to have a position of authority. So this point is very interesting. And we've seen ethics and the legal department in this chapter. And after that, when we go to the third slide, Noran. The one next to it.
You can see it now, chapter 7 and 6 summary, right, with the videos.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Good.
Do you want to? Yes.
No,
Continue.
I will tell you to click on the links. Yes, thank you. Usually I used to get very confused and differentiating ethics, morals, and values. So I compiled this 3 videos so that we can have a clear understanding of those concepts. So just for high level explanation, ethics is a branch, as Noran explained, it's a branch of philosophy concerned with intent, means, and consequences of moral behavior. Ethics is the study of moral judgments and the rights and wrong conducts. And when we see morals, morals are individuals' determination of what is wrong and what is right. And they're influenced by individuals' values. And when we see values, values are very closely tied with ethics, because ethics is the driver that helps convert values into action. So when we go to the videos, click on the one that's under ethics, Noran, so that you can have a clear understanding of ethics. Yeah.
Okay.
Ethics. The term ethics often describes the investigation and analysis of moral principles and dilemmas. Traditionally, philosophers and religious scholars have studied ethics. More recently, scholars from various disciplines have entered the field, creating new approaches to the study of ethics, such as behavioral ethics and applied ethics. The term ethics can also refer to rules or guidelines that establish what conduct is right and wrong for individuals and for groups. For example, codes of conduct express relevant ethical standards for many professions, such as medicine, law, journalism, and accounting. Some philosophers make a distinction between ethics and morals, but many people use the terms ethics and morals interchangeably when talking about personal beliefs, actions, or principles. For example, it's common to say, "My ethics prevent me from cheating." It's also common to use morals in this sentence instead. So, whether we use the term ethics to refer to our personal beliefs or rules of conduct, or the study of moral philosophy, ethics provides a framework for understanding and interpreting right and wrong in society.
We will connect the dots when we see the other videos. So Noran, proceed to the
بستعمل
other
اريال
links.
علشان الحاجة اللي تخص نظافة عيلتي ما عنديش
Sorry, it is just
استعداد ان انا
typing.
اوفر.
Do you want to see the other video?
Yes,
Directly?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Go to the next one so that we can connect.
Okay, I'm going to share again.
Morals. Morals are the prevailing standards of behavior that enable people to live cooperatively in groups. Moral refers to what society sanctions as right and acceptable. Most people tend to act morally and follow societal guidelines. Morality often requires that people sacrifice their own short-term interests for the benefit of society. People or entities that are indifferent to right and wrong are considered amoral, while those who do evil acts are considered immoral. While some moral principles seem to transcend time and culture, such as fairness, generally speaking, morality is not fixed. Morality describes the particular values of a specific group at a specific point in time. Historically, morality has been closely connected to religious traditions, but today its significance is equally important to the secular world. For example, businesses and government agencies have codes of ethics that employees are expected to follow. Some philosophers make a distinction between morals and ethics, but many people use the terms morals and ethics interchangeably when talking about personal beliefs, actions, or principles. For example, it's common to say, "My morals prevent me from cheating." It's also common to use ethics in this sentence instead. So, morals are the principles that guide individual conduct within society. And while morals may change over time, they remain the standards of behavior that society uses to judge right and wrong.
The third one, we shall comment first.
Nurin?
Do you want me to
Yes,
the third
yes.
one?
Go to the
Okay.
last one. Yes.
Okay.
Because we've defined them, and now we're seeing how they differ and how they relate.
Okay.
Values. Values are individual beliefs that motivate people to act one way or another. They serve as a guide for human behavior. Generally, people are predisposed to adopt the values that they are raised with. People also tend to believe that those values are right because they are the values of their particular culture. Ethical decision-making often involves weighing values against each other and choosing which values to elevate. Conflicts can result when people have different values, leading to a clash of preferences and priorities. Some values have intrinsic worth, such as love, truth, and freedom. Other values, such as ambition, courage, and responsibility, describe traits or behaviors that are instrumental as means to an end. Still, other values are considered sacred and are moral imperatives for those who believe in them. Sacred values will seldom be compromised because they are perceived as duties rather than as factors to be weighed in decision-making. For example, for some people, their nation's flag may represent a sacred value. But for others, the flag may just be a piece of cloth. So, whether values are sacred, have intrinsic worth, or are a means to an end, values vary among individuals and across cultures and time. However, values are universally recognized as a driving force in our ethical decision-making.
So I hope, guys, those videos are very explanatory. So what I've understood is ethics are rules you abide by in order to remain within a community or profession or any environment you're in. And morals are your personal values that run to the core of your personality. if that makes sense. Anyone has any questions? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, for me, I can hear you.
Yes.
Grodus, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I was just waiting for if there are any questions.
Okay.
So I guess everything is clear. So when we go to the chapter 7,
Yes.
Ahmed has also explained everything thoroughly, but let me just do a quick recap. So we've seen that values are social glues for an organization. We've seen values in, I think he has mentioned that uh, values in American workplace. So there are 5 values that are common in American workplace. And they are honesty, respect, service, excellence, and integrity. And we have also discussed the importance and role of courage in character formation. Where here we've seen a very important topic that says what people say is important, what people do is more important, and what people sacrifice is the most important. So this says a lot about the topic here. And we also saw the different traditional definitions of good in the Western culture. Some example are power. Some example, when we see power, this explains how you can win by doing not conscious things. For example, if the world you live in is a struggle and human beings are very selfish and greedy, then you can do immoral and not conscious things. So you can steal, murder, and anything that is not acceptable to get what you want, or to get to the level you want to be in. And on the contrary, another example says that goodness of nature and human beings. So in order for human beings to achieve the highest good, they must be pure, natural. So these concepts are very different and opposite in the traditional definitions of goods in the Western culture. We've also seen another interesting point, which is the full swing values, which is used to assess the strengths of one's values. So I had a question here for you guys. Are your values full swing? Do you believe that your values are full swing? If anyone can remember the 5 points that were stated, or the 5 stages that one's values can go through to be full swing. Do you believe that your values are full swing? I need some participation here. Anyone?
What's
So
full
just
swing again?
just to
I
yes,
am
so
facing
full
difficulty
swing.
hearing you. What?
Oh, am I having connection problems?
No, I
Hello?
Uh, his headphones is
Oh,
not well,
I
so I
think
think
it's
Ahmed, if you can write, that will be better because your voice is interrupted from the headphones.
yes. So just to remind you all, full swing is full swing values is used to assess the strengths
Hello, can you
of
hear me?
one's values. So, yes, we can hear you. So, a full swing is comprised of 5 points. So, in order for your values, for example, you might have one value that you believe that it is, what do you call it? This is my value. To say, in order to say this is your value, it has to be full swing. So the stages are know one's value, cherish one's value, declare one's value, act on one's value, and act habitually on one's value. So in order for your value to be a full swing value, it has to fulfill all these 5 points. So my question was, is your any value that you have, is it a full swing value? So, or you can change the question by saying, are your values full swing? Or would you, for example, we can take, or are you hesitant to explaining them, or missing one stage of the full swing, if I'm clear? Is it clear, guys, or am I confusing you?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
clear.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Ahmed.
good.
If I will talk about this, I cannot say that I have a full swing. Um, if I can consider doing the correct thing as a value, then whenever I become in a tight situation, my manager taught me something that I cherish now. Will you accept this on yourself or not? If I will accept it on myself, then it is correct. Or not like this, then yes, I can see that this is something can happen. If I will not accept it on myself, then why I should accept it to someone else? If this is related to the full swing or not, but Nuran, if you can bring the screen again, the slide again.
I did.
Well, in this case, I can say that some of the steps apply to what I believe and what I was taught, not the full swing.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Actually,
So
Robert,
usually,
if you let me as a participant to have a comment here, that
sure.
yes, we can relate it to the levels of morality, because as you said that the virtue level or stages 5 and 6 with post-conventional uh, personality or ethics is around on average from 15 to 20%, from I guess 10 to 15%. They are very minor.
5 to 10,
So
if it's, yes.
okay, 5 to 10. And no, I'm including stage 5 in addition. So I think
Oh,
for
yes.
yes, it will be a bigger range. So I'm a believer that if it is related, we will find that the people who are having full swings are the people of a stage 5 and 6. But the most people, which are around 80% of the population, will not have a full swing. They can stop at point number 4 here, if we can relate both together. So I think on average, 80% to 85% of people will not achieve the full swing, except they reach the level of the virtue of stage 5 and 6. So they will be a full swing personalities. This is my guess, my personal guess. Please continue, Rhoda. Thank you. Sorry for interruption.
You did a great job, Nora. You did a great connection. And yeah, but then what I wanna add, I can always improve. You can reach that level of that stage level,
Yeah.
that stage 6 level of those morality levels, and you can be a full swing through different mechanisms. I mean, I personally had very low. I used to be the lower stages of the morality levels, but now I'm relatively better, and so this can be achieved through self concepts and through self development and through through the core knowledge of what is value to you and how to improve or how to uh, um, how to have those core values integrated into your day-to-day activities. So as little things become or make the person you are today, so the little things add up. So what you do every day becomes that value or that behavior that you're gonna have in a while, or yeah. So I think we've covered most of it uh, since Ahmed and Nuran covered it very in detail. Yeah. So in order to save time, I think I only have yeah. I want to add that organizational ethics. So code of ethics in organization includes what the organization has in terms of its relations with the government, employees, its business, production, its relations with its customers, and its environment and community. We also discussed about how organizations are creating ethics ombudsman to monitor ethical practices and procedures. So there's this one side of for example, we can take an organization being we have this ethical organization, we have this example of an ethical or an organization that has ethical misconduct in it. So it's easier to build that ethical practices and ethical environment in your organization than to have a costly misconduct, or the misconduct itself is very costly. So it's better to invest more in having an ethical organization than to have what's it called? We usually cure the symptoms. So in order instead of curing the symptoms, it's better to cure the core problem. So it's better to be ethical in the first place than to cover what comes after. And yeah, these were the points or the summary of both chapters. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. And if anyone has any questions, we are you're open to ask. So it can even be outside of this both topics which you thought of. Should I call names?
Everything is clear. It was a very nice presentation. Great job, guys.
Thank you, Lizat. So I guess everyone's gonna get full score on the assessment, on the quiz.
By the way, I want to ask a question. I want to know your suggestion. One thing is that you all have explained what's the value, first the was, and next is your action, and next is the sacrifice. So sometimes we might only once that kind of important one, but we cannot know exactly their values. Or what should we do, or maybe how can we do? How can we know the values of their the real values of that person?
I guess the answer for your question, Chan, is ethics is developed by experience. We cannot have the ultimate or abstract decision in each case. We have to experience a case by case each time. From our parents, from our bosses at work, from the usual experience we get exposed to daily, but we will never know the right answer for any dilemma, never. As far as we have not reached the virtual or utopia level, if that answers your question.
Thank you, Nora.
Chan. We are really glad, guys, that you have attended the session and you were able to cut off of your precious time to attend our presentation. And we hope for you that this presentation will collect for you some lessons learned for your upcoming ones and be a better leaders than we were today. And it will be good, very good if you can have, we already will finish in 2 minutes, so we'll have another 10 minutes. You can do the evaluation in the form. And so we can share your feedback for as a lessons learned for next session. Thank you all. Thank you.
And thank you, Ahmed and Noran and Rodas. And thank you for problem solving through the technical issues that's going to happen. We are a virtual course, so well done on working through that. I apologize. I've been having a coughing spell the entire morning. So I wanted to just thank you all and celebrate your hard work. And I want to let everyone know what to expect next. And so for our leaders that presented today and led this session, what I did during the session is I had the document that was given to you about leading a class session and that assignment number 1, a team leadership approach. I had that document pulled up. And so I took copious notes along the way so that I can give you some immediate feedback. I'll send that to you to both of the emails that you provided, your Windsor account and the other backup account, within this next 24 hours, maybe within this next 3 or 4 hours. And you'll see where my thinking is in relation to all of that. And at the same time, your colleagues in the course are going to complete, let me share my screen. And they will complete this quiz code. And to receive up to the full 10 points, they'll do that within this next 48 hours. So that within today's Monday, by Thursday morning, I will send the presentation team the data results from your colleagues in the course. And the way that is written out, the portion that you'll receive is it literally took those same categories from the document that you planned for the assignment today and do a 5-star rating and offer opportunities to give specific compliments to the way that the work was provided, and then also some considerations just for you to continue to evolve as public speakers, as leaders. So that's that area there. And then for our connections that we're working through out, we have a question there or a statement to reflect on in regards to why ethics, morals, and values are important in leadership. And then also there is an article linked there about the double helix that gives you additional details, goes much more in depth than the little bit that I interjected today to the work that was done. And I look forward to Layazette and Olia and Ezzy presenting next week on leading self at scale and scope. And I am not going to take any more of the time because you want to go ahead and get that immediate link completed that Noran and Rodas and Ahmed requested, and use this next 10 minutes to do so. Unless anyone else has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Prof.
opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, so the remainder of the time is going to be to complete that link that Norian and Rodas and Ahmed requested you complete. And then you have access to the OneNote for the materials. And if you need anything else, you all let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful remainder of your evening. And I will let everyone know the results within 48 hours. I'm not going to wait until next week. I'm going to let everybody know through WhatsApp if we decide to change class to begin at 10 o'clock, which means we would end at 10 o'clock Eastern time, which means we would end an hour later as well. So we would go from 10 to 12:30 Eastern time instead of 9 to 11:30 Eastern time. But I will put that in WhatsApp because I'll let student services know ahead of time if that ends up taking place and at what date we would potentially switch to that. So keep an eye out for that information as well. I hope to be able to accommodate that if it works for the majority. Take care, everybody.